We are kicking off today with AEW as this week's Dynamite went off the air with Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson joining FTR as the team to face the Elite in Anarchy in the Arena. That match will take place at Double or Nothing later this month, but before then, Bryan Danielson wanted to show how ready he is after Dynamite went off the air. In footage shared online, Bryan requested a series of chops from Eddie Kingston so the fans got to see him do something physical, and the Mad King was happy to oblige. Danielson doesn't wrestle as much as he once did, but has shown he's ready for Anarchy in the Arena, and fans can expect a war when Team AEW faces the Elite at Double or Nothing. The Elite certainly deserve Anarchy after what they've done in recent weeks, including laying out Tony Khan mere moments after he reinstated Jack Perry. Their issues with Khan haven't been just on TV though, as after Dynamite, the quartet shared a photo from Edmonton's Rogers Place at the reserved parking spot for Tony Khan. Of course, Khan hasn't been present at any AEW events since the attack, and in the tweet, the Elite thanked Canada for being a part of a great show. It's unclear when Tony Khan will be back, but the Elite are pleased to be running things in his absence and are having plenty of fun at the expense of the AEW president. This week, AEW traveled to Edmonton for its latest AEW Dynamite, as well as tapings for ROH, but it was at this double bill show that one so-called fan crossed a line. As first reported via a fan account on Reddit and later confirmed by PW Insider, the ROH taping saw Skye Blue be harassed during her match with Rachael Ellering. The man made a series of sexually charged and harassing comments at Blue, and these comments only grew louder and more frequent as the action spilled out of the ring. Skye told the man to not be such a pervert before eventually telling him to fuck off, according to a fan close by, and after the match, Skye immediately went to the back and was visibly upset. Referee Aubrey Edwards was even forced to intervene, calling on security to approach the man in question, and the individual, who had a young child with him, only grew more aggressive. After a confrontation, the man was ejected, and PW Insider reports that Blue and Ellering were praised backstage for their handling of the situation and continuing with the match. This man's behavior unfortunately wasn't a one-off, as during Dynamite, Saraya pointed to a group in the front row and called them creeps, and it's believed this man was among them. The person's actions were clearly unacceptable, and on Twitter, Rachael Ellering said that throughout her career, she'd never heard such vulgar things said to a talent during the match. Ellering made clear that this was sexual harassment, not heckling, and appreciated the speed she and Aubrey Edwards showed in having the fan kicked from the building. In a follow-up message, Ellering appreciated those who behaved appropriately during the show and said this person was no fan, but a pervert who should be banned for life. This incident shows the importance of maintaining a safe and respectful environment for performers and fans alike, and hopefully this is the last of this so-called fan at events. During this week's Dynamite, Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta held nothing back in their brutal match, with Cassidy even being on the receiving end of a pile driver on the steel steps. Now typically, such a move would finish the match and possibly see the wrestler written off TV, but not only did that not happen, but Cassidy would go on to win the bout. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Bully Ray criticized the spot, saying that it destroyed credibility as Cassidy was able to quickly recover from the pile driver on the steps. Bully made clear his view that the spot should never be repeated and said if AEW insisted on OC bouncing back from a pile driver, then it should have been a normal one without the steps. The WWE/TNA Hall of Famer went as far as to say he'd hate any company who felt it was okay for a talent to essentially no-sell a pile driver on steps and be back up seconds later. Cassidy, according to Bully Ray, should have been stretchered out due to the move, not on his feet ready to fight after the move, and added that this is where AEW needs a lot of help. Bully Ray certainly didn't hold back with his view of this spot on Dynamite, and do you agree with his stance on the steel steps pile driver? Let us know down in the comments. If you watched WWE Backlash, you'll have seen that the fans in the LDLC arena in Lyon were passionate to say the least, as they had plenty of chants across the night. Backlash France proved to be WWE's largest gate for an arena event, thanks in part to high ticket prices, but the show also set a second, rather unfortunate record. As explained on Wrestling Observer Radio, the event broke the record for the lowest pay-per-view buys in WWE history and was said to have reached a new low by a significant margin. In fairness, it should be made clear that pay-per-view buys have dropped considerably over the past decade across all shows, as fans now use streaming on the WWE Network and Peacock. In addition to this, the show's 1 p.m. start time in the US will not have helped out, so while this record isn't great, it's important to remember the context around Backlash France. It was also stated that the show saw around 100,000 Google searches, the lowest for any WWE PLE, as the passion reflected in the arena was not shown by those online. As for the pay-per-view buys, the number was down 39% from Elimination Chamber Perth, and while these buys mean little these days, it's a reflection of interest in an event. Nevertheless, Triple H was pleased with the show, and has even teased an event in Italy, so no matter what the numbers show, WWE will no doubt consider Backlash a success as a PLE. The last time fans saw Rhea Ripley, it was on the April 15th Raw, where she shared that due to an injury, she would be vacating the WWE Women's World Championship. That title is now held by Becky Lynch, and Ripley has been away recovering from the injury given to her during a backstage attack by Liv Morgan. This week, Ripley's first post-injury appearance was announced, as fans will get the chance to meet her at the Fanatics Fest in New York City later this year. Ripley will be participating in meet and greets and will make a live panel appearance on August 18th, and we imagine her panel will prove to be exceptionally popular in the Big Apple. One name fans can still see plenty of on WWE TV is Cody Rhodes, as the undisputed WWE champion has been riding high since his victory at WrestleMania 40. Well, it turns out the Rhodes will also be at the Fanatics Fest in New York City this August, and he will be a part of the August 18th panel as well. Rhodes has had his issues with the Judgment Day in the past, and we'll have to see what the two have to say to each other during this upcoming live appearance panel. We've got news from the King of the Ring tournament next, as the festivities will continue on tonight's Smackdown, but won't include Bobby Lashley. On Twitter, Smackdown GM Nick Aldis revealed that due to an injury sustained in training, Lashley is not medically cleared to compete and has been pulled from the tournament. Lashley was meant to face Tama Tonga, but now it'll be the Almighty's ally Angelo Dawkins who gets the spot instead, in what'll be a huge opportunity for the former tag team champion. This is a huge setback for Lashley, who reached the finals of the King of the Ring in 2006 before losing to Booker T, and was hoping to win the entire thing this year. Tonight's show will see other first-round matches as WWE inches closer to crowning its next king, but we know for certain that it won't be Lashley, who's crowned later this month. Since 2018, WWE has hosted several premium live events in Saudi Arabia, with the next being the King and Queen of the Ring show later this month. This will be the first time the iconic tournament has received its own PLE since 2002, but those in Saudi Arabia have bigger shows in their sights. When Turki Al-Sheikh, chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, spoke to ESPN, he revealed that an enhancement on WWE's current deal will be announced this month. Al-Sheikh added that Saudi Arabia is looking to bring the Royal Rumble to the country one year, and has goals to host WrestleMania in the kingdom. These comments about WrestleMania come at an interesting time, as the UK has made it clear that they want to host the show, an idea supported by John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Nick Khan has said that WWE's Big Four PLEs will stay in North America for the time being, but with the money the Saudis will be willing to pay, we'll have to see if that's the case for long. Recently, it was reported that Detroit were preparing to make a bid for WrestleMania 43 in 2027, which, if successful, would see Michigan host the show of shows for the third time. The Mitten State hosted WrestleManias 3 and 23, but now the Detroit Sports Commission has denied that moves are in play for WrestleMania 43. In a statement to the Detroit News, the commission said that they are not currently in the process of preparing a bid, but remained enthusiastic about possibly hosting WWE events. While the commission isn't currently working on a bid, that doesn't mean one won't come, and we'll have to wait and see where WrestleMania 43 ends up taking place. It was back in 2023, after 25 years with WWE, that Adam Copeland joined AEW as part of WrestleDream, in a huge shift for the Rated R superstar. On the Insight podcast this week, Copeland was asked about leaving WWE and revealed the company's part-time schedule for him was a factor in his exit. While WWE were happy to keep him part-time with a handful of matches a year, Copeland wanted to be involved on a weekly basis, something that AEW has afforded him. The TNT champion also revealed that he came close to joining AEW back in 2019, shortly before he was cleared to wrestle again, as he wasn't under contract with WWE at the time. When Copeland discussed the idea in WWE, though, he was told that his return to the ring after close to a decade away should happen in a WWE ring, an idea the then Edge agreed with. Copeland also said that by returning to action in WWE, he had all this history to lean into as Edge, while joining AEW in 2019 would have forced him to start anew. During the interview, Copeland discussed his 2005 feud with Matt Hardy, which stemmed from Hardy's real-life girlfriend at the time, Lita, cheating on him with Copeland. These real-life issues would see Hardy be briefly fired from WWE before being brought back, and on the show, Copeland explained how it didn't take long for the two to make amends. I mean, honestly, it wasn't that long. I think kind of once we went through that, and once we both realized, okay, still the same guys, and still have the same chemistry, still have the same everything, so I feel like the fan base took a lot longer to come around to the idea that we were okay than we did. It was pretty quickly, and then you just gotta move on. Both Copeland and Hardy are now happily married to Beth Phoenix and Rebby Hardy respectively, and have made amends in a show of maturity from the two iconic wrestlers. For decades, Randy Orton worked under Vince McMahon, but with the billionaire's exit from the company, the Viper is now taking creative direction from his old Evolution alum, Triple H. Speaking to the Adam's Apple YouTube channel, Orton discussed the change and said that unlike in the past, storylines today are laid out months and months in advance. Orton clearly prefers this rather than creative plans being changed minutes before we went live each week, and recalled being on flights to shows with no idea what the plan was. The Viper said these constant changes in WWE's old regime made for a very stressful environment, one that couldn't produce the best product, and he's happier with the new regime. Right now, Orton is embroiled in a feud with the Bloodline that has seen the Viper align with Kevin Owens, and he doesn't have to worry about last-minute changes to the plans. Not too long ago, Jonah Neisenbaum was recruited by WWE as part of the NIL program, and fans will soon get to see the amateur wrestling star, albeit with a new name. On Twitter, Neisenbaum shared that Cutler James, the name of his WWE persona, will be on the upcoming NXT Level Up, and it remains to be seen how he fares in the ring. During the recent releases to WWE NXT, Emma Diaz was let go by the company after appearing in the company's Next Gen docuseries. What fans may not know about Diaz is that she is currently dating Lexis King, and unsurprisingly, being cut from the company where she could spend time with her boyfriend has hit them both hard. In a recent interview with Steve Fall of Wrestling News, Diaz spoke about the release in the context of her relationship with the former AEW star. She said, "At first it was really hard for us because obviously we have, a stable home right now. Like we both were going to work together and we were both coming home together, We were making the same amount of money. Everything was very stable, but now that there is change, Lexis King's really excited for me because he did the independents for a really long time." Looking to the future, Diaz added that King wants her to pay her dues to help teach her facets of pro wrestling outside WWE. He thinks that, it's time that I pay my dues, back to the business, because I got to train and I got paid to train, and a lot of independent wrestlers and a lot of people that love pro wrestling don't get the luxury of that, and I definitely realize, and I'm grateful for that, so he thinks that I'll get really good at the indies and I'll learn how to work a crowd. Diaz has taken King's words to heart as she is already taking bookings, and it may not be long before we see her make a splash on the independent scene. More from AEW is Tony Khan, who currently has a roster chock full of talented individuals, including plenty of stars who previously worked for WWE. In 5 years, AEW has become the main competitor to WWE, and during a talk on Cincy 360, Khan discussed what separates an AEW wrestler from a WWE superstar. He said, "AEW, we have what I believe is the most exciting matches, and we have great stories happening. We're really a challenger brand. We're fighting against an establishment, and we've built a huge fan base in a pretty quick time. People that love the fast-paced, exciting action and the interviews. In AEW, I think people really feel a connection with the wrestlers. We don't script the interviews here. People go out, they're talking about, maybe they got bullet points and key pieces of information that they're trying to get out, but it feels like you're hearing a real person talk, which isn't always the way it feels with some of the competition's interviews. I think that's one major difference. I think our biggest strength is the quality of athletes and the charisma of our biggest stars. Some of the biggest names in wrestling are in AEW, and there's a reason why these big free agents want to come here to AEW. It's because this is where the best wrestle." Khan is immensely proud of the company he runs, even if his comments on social media in the past, especially about WWE, have not always been well received by fans. Right now, AEW is gearing up its 6th Double or Nothing event, which will see AEW return to the MGM Grand, and Khan is eager to show that AEW is indeed where the best wrestle. In April, Tony Khan confirmed rumors that AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery were working on a new TV deal and suggested that the new deal would be revealed very soon. Now those plans have hit a detour, as Bloomberg reports that WBD is looking to make serious cuts to its budget after 2023 ended with a huge amount of debt. At this time, it's not been confirmed that AEW programming will be affected, but it is possible, considering that the company hasn't always operated at a profit. A Forbes article in 2021 revealed that AEW had been in the red for some time, thanks in part to their 8-figure investment, at least $10 million, into their AEW Games department. Obviously, a lot has changed since then, and AEW has become a much bigger company than it once was, but it remains to be seen whether WBD's cost-cutting measures hit AEW. WWE has been able to land massive deals for Raw, Smackdown, and NXT, but what will the future hold for AEW programming and a new deal? Only time will tell. If you've been watching the Blackpool Combat Club recently, you'll have seen Wheeler Yuta hasn't been competing, with his most recent match being on the January 10th Dynamite. Shortly after, it was stated that Yuta was dealing with an injury that has kept him sidelined ever since and forced him to pull out of a CMLL event with AEW talent in March. In an update from Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, it's revealed that Yuta has been dealing with symptoms of a concussion for months, and there is no timeline for his return to action. Despite his injury, Ring of Honor has kept its Pure Championship on Yuta, but with no sign of a return anytime soon, it may be time to discuss possibly vacating the gold. AEW ROH hoped in January that Yuta wouldn't be out for long, though that clearly hasn't been what's happened, and we're wishing him a full and speedy recovery. And we're ending with business news, as TKO launched in September of last year and saw WWE and UFC be merged, and this week they reported their 2024 first quarter earnings. The report reveals that TKO's revenue for the quarter was $629.7 million, but in a big development, the company actually made a net loss of $249.5 million. This loss is being attributed to TKO settling an antitrust lawsuit against UFC, as the plaintiffs alleged that UFC had been suppressing fighter wages and stifling rival promotions. This unfair monopoly was settled with $335 million being paid out in a case that represented over 1,200 individuals and clearly cost TKO a lot of money. Another huge takeaway from the report is that WWE actually outperformed UFC in a break from their usual figures before the two companies came together. UFC earned $313 million in the quarter, slightly behind the $316.7 million WWE garnered for TKO, and both companies held record-breaking events in this time period. TKO may have made a net loss, but with the antitrust suit settled, they're looking to the future as the new company prepares to be a dominant force in sports and entertainment.